ॐ भूर्भुवः स्वः तत्सवितुर्वरेण्यं भर्गो देवस्य धीमहि धियो यो नः प्रचोदयात् ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः. Namaste my dear friends, this is video number 3 on Brahma Bindu Upanishad or Amrita Bindu Upanishad. Continuing the topic from video number 2, that is Gaudapadacharya's Karika of Mandukya Upanishad about Manas Nirodha, control of mind. We start with the same topic. Thus, when Manas is possessed of Viveka, of the conviction that Atma alone is real and the rest unreal, it becomes thoroughly restrained and freed from all imaginings, owing to the absence of all objects of thought. Manas then gets resolved into Pratyagatman, the innermost self. This peculiar behavior of Manas is familiar only to the yogis. It is Vidvupat Pratiksha. It is intuitively known only to the wise sages, only to the illuminate. Objection: since all cognition is absent alike in Susupti and Nirodha state, all behavior of mind in the Nirodha state is the same as in Susupti state, that is, the behavior of Manas in Nirodha is quite as far beyond consciousness as that in Susupti, and therefore in the Nirodha state there remains nothing of which the yogis may become conscious. Answer to this objection: the behavior of Manas in the Nirodha state is quite distinct from its behavior in the Susupti state. Wherein lies the difference between the two? In the Susupti state, Manas is embraced by avidya, by delusion, by the tamas, and is pregnant with vasanas or tendencies which, concealed within Manas, are the source of all the activities that lead to many an evil result. Whereas in the Nirodha state, avidya and all other seeds of activity leading to many an evil result are burnt up by the fire of the conviction that Atma alone is real, and all rajas giving rise to all sorts of pain is perfectly neutral. Manas is then in its own state, quite independent, having attained to Brahma's own state of being. Thus, the behavior of Manas in the Nirodha state is quite distinct from that in the Susupti state, and though very hard to know, it is a thing which one may realize in consciousness. These three terms, avidya, moha, and tamas, are descriptive designations of one and the same thing, showing that what is called avidya is not a mere negative of vidya, that is, the mere absence of vidya, nor is it a mere hallucination of the mind, chit bharma. It is, on the other hand, a distinct principle called tamas or darkness, far subtler than chitta or the thinking principle, and it is that extremely thin veil which envelops the absolute reality. Thus, liberation, the result of jnana, is not a remote proksha result like svarga resulting from karma performed here. It is as immediately experienced as the sense of satisfaction immediately following the act of eating. The result of jnana consists, as here described, in mano nirodha, which, as has been shown above, follows closely upon jnana and becomes the effect of experience. Gaudapada describes the difference between susupti and samadhi as follows in verse number 65 of Gaudapadacharya's Karika of Mandukya Upanishad. Liyate hi susupte तन्निग्रहीतुं न लीयते तदेव निर्भयं ब्रह्म ज्ञानालोकं समन्ततः. And verse number 36. अजमनिद्र स्वपन परमनाम कम रूपकम सकृति द्विभातम सर्वजम नोपचारः कथंच. In Susupti, Manas attains Laya. When restrained, it does not attain Laya. That alone is the fearless Brahma, luminous with knowledge all around. It is unborn, sleepless, dreamless, nameless, formless, ever luminous, omniscient. No ceremony whatever. These are verse number 35 and 36. It was verse number 35, not 65, as wrongly written. In Susupti, Manas attains Laya, that is resolved into its seed, its primal cause, the chaotic, unconscious principle of tamas, along with all the vasanas, the tendencies or latent impressions of avidya, and other seeds of affliction. In the nirodha state, on the other hand, manas is restrained in virtue of its discriminative knowledge. In virtue of the conviction that Atman alone is real, it does not attain laya. It is not resolved into its seed. The chaotic tamas, it does not exist even in the subtlest form, in the form of its cause. Wherefore, it is but right to say that the behavior of manas is different in the nirodha and susupti states. The five afflictions are thus enumerated and defined by Patanjali in his Yoga Sutras chapter 2, stanza number 3 to 9. Number 1. Avidya or ignorance, the mistaking of what is non-eternal, impure, painful, and non-self to be eternal, pure, quiescent self. 2. Asmita or egoism, the identifying of the seer with the act of seeing. Third, raga or desire, a longing for pleasure or for the cause of pleasure. Fourth, dvesha or aversion, a dislike for pain or for the cause of pain. Fifth, abhiniv- abhinivesha or tenacity of life, a strong natural desire to live, cherished even by the wise. Nirodha state described. When Manas brought into Samadhi state is rid of the twofold dirt caused by avidya, the dirt of perception and the dirt of organs of perception. Manas becomes the very Brahma, supreme, secondless. That therefore is verily the fearless, since there exists no perception of duality, which is the cause of fear, tranquil Brahma, which being known man has none to fear. It shines forth as jnana, consciousness, which is the essential nature of Atma. That is to say, Atma is one solid mass, as it were, made up solely of consciousness, pervading all around like the Akasha or ether. It is the very Brahma, it is the unborn. It has indeed been said that avidya is the cause of all birth. When a rope, for example, is mistaken for a serpent, it is certainly avidya that has given rise to the birth of the serpent in the rope. And this avidya has been removed by the conviction that Atma alone is real. Avidya, which is the cause of all birth, being thus absent in the Nirodha state, that which then persists and shines forth is not subject to birth, either within or without. For the same reason, that is unborn, that is because there is no avidya, it is anidra without nidra. For nidra here denotes avidya itself, the beginningless maya. It is aswapna, sleepless, as having completely awakened from the sleep of maya and become the non-dual atma. It is nameless and formless. Brahma is not designated by name nor represented to be of this or that form. The Shruti says, from whom all words as well as manas return, having failed to reach him, name and form applied to us are products of mere ignorance. By knowledge they have been extinguished, just as where a rope has been mistaken for a serpent, the serpent has been extinguished by knowledge. It is, moreover, ever luminous. It is light ever shining, for it is never unperceived nor misperceived. It neither comes into manifestation nor goes out of sight. It is said to be unperceived when no consciousness that I am arises. I am arises in Jiva or the individual self associated with Upadhi, avidya. Then Atma goes out of sight. When there arises in the same Jiva the consciousness that I am the agent, when the Atma is wrongly perceived, then Atma is said to come into manifestation. As manifestation and disappearance of this kind are alike absent in Brahma, it is ever effulgent. Now, an objector may say, before Brahma is taught by Shruti or Acharya, it is said to be unperceived, and after it has been taught, it is said to be perceived. Thus, Brahma is subject to perception and non perception. We answer, not so. For perception and non perception are like day and night. As to the sun considered in himself, there can be neither day nor night. They are pure imaginations, born of another illusory notion that the sun rises and sets. So also in Brahma, considered in itself, there can be no perception or non perception. They are mere imaginations due to Upadhi. Brahma without Upadhi is ever effulgent. Moreover, tamas, which is of the nature of avidya or ignorance, is the cause of Brahman's not being ever effulgent to us. From the standpoint of Brahma, there can be no connection whatever with tamas, and in itself Brahma is the eternal, ever effulgent consciousness. For the same reason, Brahma is all and is himself the knower. The wise man whose manas has attained to Nirodha and who therefore has attained to the state of Brahma has nothing more to do. With regard to the Nirupadhika or unconditioned Brahma, no formal worship is necessary. He alone who has not realized Atma has to resort to Samadhi and other forms of worship by which to approach the divine being regarded as external to himself. Brahma being ever existent, pure consciousness, conscious and free for the wise man whose avidya has been extinguished and who has himself become Brahma, there can be nothing whatever to do. All vyavahara or action in general exist only in the state of avidya. In the state of vidya or enlightenment, avidya is entirely absent and therefore no vyavahara can exist. A mere semblance, however, of vyavahara is possible owing to a temporary continuance of what has been found to be unreal. Brahma is none other than the wise man in the Nirodha state. The Acharya describes the wise man who has attained samadhi in the following words. This is verse number of 37 of Gaudapadacharya's Karika of Mandukya Upanishad. Sarva abhilapavigatah sarva chinta samudhitah suprashant sukrij jyoti samadhir chalo abhay. Free from all speech, having risen above all thought, perfectly serene, ever effulgent, the samadhi, immutable, fearless. It has been said that what shines forth in the Nirodha state has no name and form, and so on. It has then no organ of speech, the source of names of all kinds, or any other external organ of sensation. It has risen above all thought. It has then no buddhi, no antahakarna by which to think. It is thus quite pure. There exists not in it even a trace of these, not even their cause, avidya in its subtlest form. As devoid of all objects of perception, it is perfectly serene. It is ever effulgent as the self-conscious Atma. It is spoken of as samadhi because it is attainable by the prajna or consciousness which results from samadhi, or because it is supreme Atma in whom Jiva, the individual, and his upadhi find their resting place. It is immutable and therefore fearless. This state of Nirodha Samadhi is attainable only as the result of a vast amount of good karma. Nirodha marks the end of the path. On attaining to Nirodha Samadhi, nothing more remains to be done, as the Acharya says in stanza number 38 of Mandukya Upanishad Karika. This is stanza number 38. Graho ne tatra notsarg chinta yatra ne vidyate atam sanstham tada jnanam jati samtam gatam. No taking or giving up is there where no thought exists. Centered in Atma, then, is knowledge without birth, having attained equality. Because Brahma alone shines forth in the Nirodha state and is spoken of as immutable and fearless, therefore, in that state, that is, in Brahma, there can be neither taking nor giving up. Where there is change or liability to change, there alone taking and giving up are possible, but neither of the two can exist in Brahma. There can be no change in Brahma because There is no second thing which can cause change, and there can be no liability to change because Brahma has no parts. In Brahma, there can be no thought of any kind. When Manas has thus ceased to be Manas, how can there be taking or giving up? On the rise of the conviction that Atma alone is real, then in the absence of all objects of perception, consciousness, jnana, becomes centered in Atma alone, just as heat becomes centered in fire itself when there is no fuel to burn. Such a consciousness is birthless and has attained to absolute identity. Thus, it has been shown how Brahma, which is immutable and present ever and everywhere, is really unborn, though by illusion it appears to be this thing now and that thing at another time, compared with the conviction that Atma alone is real, all else is low and mean. On attaining to this knowledge, a Brahmana has achieved all and has nothing more to do. Few can reach Nirodha. Thus, Brahma, the supreme reality, the inner self, the immutable, Kutastha, existence, Sat, intelligence, Chit, and bliss, Ananda, is attainable by a knowledge of the reality, by a firm conviction of its non-duality. Still the self-complacent, unenlightened men do not apply themselves to it. Oh, this class of people, the Acharya says in verse number 39 of Gaudapadacharya's Karika of Mandukya Upanishad. स्पर्श योगो वै नाम दुर्दशः सर्वयोगिभिः योगिनो बिभक्ति हास्यं दभये भयदर्शिनः. Untainted yoga, verily is this called hard to see for all yogins. Yogins indeed are afraid of this, seeing fear in the fearless. Nirodha is well known in the Upanishads by the name of untainted, Sparsha Yoga, as untouched by or unrelated to anything whatever. It is Sparsha or untainted because of the very intuitive experience of non-dual Atma, in virtue of which neither the merit, dharma of caste and religious order nor the dirt of sin can affect the soul, and it is yoga because jiva is therefore united to Brahma. It is very hard for a yogin to attain for him who does not possess Vedantic wisdom. A yogin attains to it only after undergoing a good deal of trouble involved in the process of Sarvana, Manana, and Nididhyasana, that is, of learning the ancient wisdom from the teacher and of reflecting and contemplating thereon, and so on, the processes by which alone one can attain to the conviction that Atma alone is real. So I complete this video here. Next video number 4 will continue with the same topic of Acharya Gaudapada Mandukya Upanishad Karika, and it will start with self-deluded karma yogins. Thank you for watching this video. Please like, comment and share the video and subscribe the channel. Namaskar my dear friends.